Hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. How are you doing, Brian?
What's up, Andy? Doing well. Doing well. What a day for crypto we've just had due to one big decision from the SEC, huh?
Yeah, exciting day, exciting day. So, over here on this side, we're Thursday, the January 11th, and January 10th on the other side. And so, what an interesting day! What an interesting day! Well, I actually woke up to the news, so it happened when I was sleeping. Um, so today's the day that the SEC approved 11 ETFs. I think.
Correct. Yeah. All
What?
11 that had spot ETF applications were approved. I think the SEC's decision and rationale was they wanted to give all ETFs a fair chance and not give any, you know, favorites an edge to, monopolize the market.
Yeah, that's. I mean, what a. I mean, remember this date, January 10th.
110.24, big day for crypto.
110.24, and I think there's a a lot of capital that's waiting to rush in. I've scouted. I mean, I've seen a few numbers, but I think yeah, they're definitely. And what's interesting is well, whilst the price of Bitcoin did go up a little bit, the price of ETH went up even more.
Yeah, look at Ethereum Classic in particular. It's gone up quick 25%, which I find very fascinating.
That is interesting. Oh my.
Yeah, altcoins have just exploded, and we can go over that today. But yeah, our metrics are certainly pointing to a whole lot of interest in a second alt season to kind of be an encore to what we saw back in October and November.
Oh, right. So let's just jump straight into it. I mean, it's let's see what's happening on chain. Like what is going on? It is it's been it's been pretty controversial as well because the day before the approval was announced, the SEC's X account was
Compromised.
hacked. Yeah, it was compromised. Um, Now there's been a lot of talk on X whether it's it was compromised or fat fingers, but it happened and then it was removed and they got it back pretty quickly. So
Right.
yeah, and then the next day it was approved. So this is yeah, let's jump into it and see what do the on-chain metrics tell us.
Yeah, and by the way, there's a conspiracy theory out there that the SEC let out the news early on purpose just to see what kind of reaction there would be from the markets. And we saw similar yesterday to what we saw today, which was a lot of altcoin surges and Bitcoin seeing a jump, but not a severe one. So now that the announcement has been official, that same reaction happened. Who knows? I mean, conspiracy theorists have ridiculous ideas, but when there's this much money at stake and there are people involved in the SEC's announcement who want to see where the pumps are going to come, why not do it a day early, right? That's the tinfoil hat theory out there. So that today they were fully prepared to get into assets like Ethereum Classic and some of the other ones that are pumping right now.
Yeah, yeah. On our side, what interesting news to wake up to. So
Absolutely.
as you can imagine, I got up this morning. For, first thing you do, you check what's going on, what happened overnight, and then I was just scrambling to get news to see to catch up on what had happened while I was sleeping.
Right. Yeah, it happened in the middle of the day here, so we were kind of monitoring Gary Gensler's announcement, and once it came forward and people believed it was real this time, it appeared that the market reaction was pretty immediate. Algos were definitely ready to start pumping altcoins just as they did yesterday.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting that it isn't so much a sell the news event because Bitcoin's still at 46, I think now. Yeah, 46 ish.
Correct.
Um,
46.6.
yeah, yeah. So it doesn't appear to be a sell the news event. So it's interesting.
It was more of like a avoid massive disappointment news because it was already so baked in that
Yeah.
the only thing that was going to change too much would be if the ETFs that everyone was anticipating actually were not approved, and it was all just a big trap. And then I think there would have been some pretty devastating market cap collapses. So we
Oh yeah.
avoided disaster. We're seeing altcoins get rewarded, even though this is supposed to be about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Um, I'm trying to. I've had a few thoughts on why that is. I think that it's more just greed a little bit, with the expectation being that Bitcoin will go up. So why not, be in a coin that's going to go up 3x as quickly? Um,
Yeah.
it's a mild concern seeing this pattern because in most cases and throughout the ETF good news getting closer and closer over the past 3 months,
Hmm.
we typically see Bitcoin pump and then altcoins follow. Well, now that we saw this news, it was altcoins pump immediately, Bitcoin trickles up a tiny bit, and now it's kind of flattened out as I'm looking at the charts as we speak. But as I'm showing our data screener here, I mean, the profits are enormous. This is one of the biggest, especially on a rapid scale, one of the biggest 6 hour pumps that we've seen in the past couple of years. The last time I really saw individual days that looked like this might have been late 2021, back when we were in full on euphoria mode and every meme coin that was announced was getting pumped to oblivion.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's
So
yeah.
I
Look
mean,
look
you
look
can
at
see
E.
Ethereum Classic here, 23%. Yeah, go on.
Wow. Yeah. No, no. I was just saying. Look at ETH. Was that at
Right.
34? Yeah.
So Ethereum
Wow.
is it's at a year and a half high. I believe it was May 2022 that we last saw prices at this level above 2,500, and it actually breached 26 briefly. So Ethereum certainly got a good reaction. I was curious on Bitcoin Cash because that previously saw a nice surge whenever there was positive ETF news, but it's actually underperforming compared to a lot of these alts right now. The big one, Hex, has been pumping. I don't even know how much this is related to the ETF, but over the past 3 to 4 days, it's been the leading performer among top 100 market cap assets, uh, despite Richard Hart's legal trouble that he's been in. I mentioned Ethereum Classic, Arbitrum right there with it, Mantle, Synthetics having a big surge, Phantom, Matic, Polkadot, Avalanche, Cardano, just to name a few that are particularly going well right now. But yeah, it looks like prices are going well. Look at the social volume gain, by the way. Ethereum actually getting a lot more discussion than Bitcoin, which I find really fascinating compared to the previous day. So perhaps this is more a sign that Bitcoin already was the talk of the town. So how much could it continue to grow? Whereas Ethereum and the benefits of its market cap growth is more of a topic that has gotten the spotlight now that the approval has happened.
Yeah. I'm thinking perhaps the talk of town now is that, well, now that the Bitcoin ETF has been approved, what about the Ethereum ETF
Right.
possibly?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the specifics of all 11 ETFs. I would imagine that there are some exposure benefits to, the big three or big four, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash, kind of the original ones that were on Coinbase back when I
Yeah.
first got into crypto in 2017.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think that there is some definite exposure to Ethereum in some of these, and they're kind of combined ETFs with some of the top caps out there. meaning that there should be some benefits to some other ones, like Polkadot and Cardano in particular are ahead of the pack right now. So that would make sense. But you can see the overall Bitcoin ETF discussions, absolute surge, as you'd expect.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is pretty modest. I'm starting to see a little bit of a bull market spike emerge here. I wouldn't be surprised if this grows very quickly. That would be a sign of euphoria. We do want to avoid that, no matter how objectively good this is in terms of creating new exposure for crypto. If the entire mainstream decides that 50K is an inevitability by the weekend, that likely means it's not an inevitability, and whales are going to pounce on all of those small buy orders that are coming in and create some sell loss.
Yep. Yeah.
And we can see trending tokens. Bitcoin is number one with Ethereum right behind. That makes perfect sense. Now, our AI summary is actually stating that Ether and tokens of Ethereum-based applications like Lido DAO and Arbitrum have seen a surge in value due to speculation about the potential approval of an Ether exchange-traded fund. So that's exactly what we're speculating. There might be, perhaps there already has been, an approved ETF specifically for ETH-based tokens, which would make sense. Lido and Arbitrum have been on an absolute skyrocket path the last few days. You can see here it's the number 3 asset, Lido.
Wow.
So lots and lots of individual stories. Bonk is starting to heat up again. The airdrop token for the Solana blockchain, that was one of the big stories at the end of December. And then looking at some of the metrics right now, we'd like to see that Bitcoin's sharks and whales pick things up. We don't have, actually, let me do a quick refresh to see if it's updated. It usually updates right around this time as the day closes. Not yet, but I would expect that we see an uptick in whale holdings and potentially. This one's interesting because with ETFs, you would assume that more dollars actually. No one's talked about this from what I've seen, but stable coins actually may see a shrink in market cap with alternate ways to purchase crypto with dollars now, right? So stable coins actually may take a bit of a hit. What do you think about that?
Oh, that's interesting. I guess for the institutions who don't deal with crypto on a daily basis, it definitely makes sense to just use existing market mechanisms to get exposure into Bitcoin, into an asset class where they normally would not have, and that the level of trust in the existing market mechanisms is already there. It's been there for 500 years. So I guess I guess you're right. But whether or not USDT, USD stable coins will shrink. That's an interesting one. I think there are still a group out there who prefer to hold Bitcoin, native Bitcoin,
Sure.
whether in their ledgers or their trezors or in institutional grade wallets, whereas there will be that possibly much larger group that would just prefer to have exposure. They don't care how it's held or whatever. They just want exposure to the asset class. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, check out this post. And there were a few replies kind of related to the positives and negatives of holding actual Bitcoin on crypto exchanges still. So a very popular Twitter handle, Altcoin Daily, who are nice guys. I've spoken to them before. They announced that it's now technically cheaper to buy a BTC ETF than it is to buy actual Bitcoin on Coinbase. And they show the founder of Coinbase looking sad with fire in the background. I think I think this is an interesting point. A lot of people are saying, oh, well, now maybe Coinbase will lower its fees because they have less of a monopoly on the entire uh, American, uh, you know, protocol for purchasing crypto. Some people immediately say, still won't buy an ETF. Um, this person said that cheaper ETF Bitcoin is 100% confiscatable by the government. Have fun sleeping well at night. I find that to be a very interesting comment. Uh, I don't know how realistic that is. There's certainly a greater than 0% chance that can happen, but for this much lead up, it would be pretty shocking if the government were to approve an ETF and then ban crypto, as they're implying.
Yeah, yeah. I think I I saw a comment or a post the other day on X where they mentioned that because each share can represent X amount of Bitcoin. So there's always, for the investor mindset, there's always that psychological thing, especially for non-native crypto investors. They're thinking, oh, like they would have to purchase one Bitcoin, and that's $46,600, and there's they can't afford that. But if it was 0.0001 per share, then it kind of brings the price of Bitcoin down. And for
Mhm.
the non crypto native investor, that then they're thinking, so the traditional investor, they're thinking, oh well, Bitcoin's a lot more affordable now, and I can purchase a share of Bitcoin or many, so
Right.
I think there's that psychological play, you know uh, at, at play for the traditional investor as well. It's like, oh, it's a lot more affordable now, I can get into Bitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are certainly a lot of pros and cons, and the ease of actually purchasing is probably right there in the forefront. Exposure is such a big deal when it comes to crypto, which requires kind of a learning curve for people, and ETFs kind of allow the traditional investors with large capital, especially people in the 60 plus age group, they absolutely don't like to dabble too much into crypto exchanges like younger people do. So now they have a means to um, get some exposure in their traditional uh, interface that they're used to. um, this person makes a good point too. Little do people buying ETFs know that if the price rises or falls 7%, they won't have the ability to buy or sell. I'll stick to my cold storage wallet. Well, I think what he's saying is when the traditional markets aren't open, you certainly can't sell. Or if you're just a long term investor and you care about capital gains, you wouldn't want to sell and you're kind of stuck with it for long term investing. So there are a lot of those cons that are being brought up now.
Yeah, yeah. um I'm inclined to think that a lot of the cons that are brought up are probably by native crypto investors who
Oh
are
yeah,
very
undoubtedly.
familiar. They're very well versed with how to navigate crypto, whereas the ETFs will have a different target market. It's for the traditional investors who they have their traditional real estate, they've got stocks, and then now they want some exposure to crypto, a percentage
Right.
of their investment portfolio to crypto. And so um, this is just a mechanism that, as you mentioned, that they're used to. So it's a no-brainer. Yeah, I'll just have X% of my portfolio in Bitcoin ETFs, and that's it. They have their exposure and they're happy, and they just go about their day.
Exactly. Yeah. And if we look at some of the on-chain metrics that are highlights of what just happened, we can see on-chain transaction volume absolutely blasted off, highest level we've seen since April, and that was right when when Bitcoin's price topped. But this is more of a price reversal indicator than anything. We see another instance where uh, in the past year this was the largest day back on February 10th, and that was essentially a local bottom. So it can go both ways. I think overall, more transaction volume is good. Address activity hasn't really expanded too much. Circulation, as you know, we have a model for it, and we can actually see that as of January, we're in a bullish divergence for the first time in a long time, with lots and lots of unique coins being moved on a day-to-day basis this month, even going up to the ETF. So that's a good sign there. And then we've got MVRV, which is understandably going to be pretty high right now. Uh, average returns on the 30-day scale is sitting at around plus 7%, but the long-term investors, they're up an average of 42%. That's a little bit of a concern because when we zoom out, let's say to the last 8 years or so, you can see that MVRV spends a pretty even amount of time, if you just look at the yellow one, above or below 0%. And the higher we get above, the more likely we are to see a big top like that. So regardless of the great news, which everyone already was expecting to happen, there's still some dangerous signs based on how much profit those long-term investors have already realized here.
Yeah.
Another thing to look at, funding rate. I think we should be paying a lot of attention to now. We are certainly going to be seeing more longs opening up. I have a model which will actually show multiple assets at the same time. Yeah, so other than a few exceptions like Binance Coin, it's still fairly neutral right now. For some reason, VE Chain is the lone one that's really getting shorted aggressively at the moment. And Ethereum actually is also being shorted, which could only be good for Ethereum's prospects of continuing to rise and maybe even get close to 3,000 if Bitcoin stays stable for a little while. But yeah, not too many aggressive longs now. I think that's going to change soon. I think especially when your area of the world starts to wake up and Europe does, and they see the news, they're likely going to be quite bullish and start opening some margin trades there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because as usual, like news takes a while to travel. Only just because we're on top of news like 24/7 doesn't mean
Right.
everyone else is. So it takes a while to disseminate. Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch.
Definitely. You can see whale transactions easily the highest day in the past year, with well over 3,300, almost 3,400 separate transactions that were valued at over $1 million. That's a big deal. That means there's a lot of interest and polarization from these huge key stakeholders for the top asset in crypto. And I wouldn't be surprised if the mean dollar vested age line here, this continues to go down. This is a great metric because when the average age of investments are moving down, that's a sign that the network is becoming less stagnant. More older coins are being moved and put back into circulation. And that had been the case going back to really at the beginning of this bull rally back in mid-October. And you can see how much the price has taken off ever since this line started to move down here. Tons of realized profits, pretty expected there. I would probably expect that the supply and exchanges might start to tick up. I'm curious what you think on this too, Andy. But naturally, I think ETFs aren't just going to be brand new investors. It's going to be current investors of Bitcoin who can now
Right.
say, "Oh, good, I don't have to hold risky actual Bitcoin. I can invest in the ETF," and they're going to move some coins back on for the purpose of selling them and then buying the equivalent amount in ETFs. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I think that's a valid point. I think for 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 institutional investors who are investing either for treasury or for their clients, so say an asset management company, they obviously would prefer the ETF because it's a mechanism that they're used to, and it's there's legal recourse, and it's just something that they know,
Hmm.
rather than messing about with private keys or multi-sig wallets and stuff
Right.
to ensure safety of their assets. So they can outsource the security of their assets to via the holding ETFs instead. So I think there will be a large or larger, for those investors, they if they were holding Bitcoin, I think you're right. There's a likelihood that they may move on from holding actual coins to holding ETFs. Whether they'll do 100% of that, I'm not sure. Um, and I guess there will be that that group of crypto natives who understand the value proposition of Bitcoin and prefer to hold Bitcoin because of the properties that it has, being trustless, being borderless, being neutral. But I think with the approval of the Bitcoin ETFs, um, the wall of money that will be coming in will not be crypto natives. It'll be
Hmm.
moms and pops. It'll be the institutions. It'll be treasuries even. Of companies who just want exposure to the asset class. So I think in time to come, you might get a much larger holding of Bitcoin through ETFs than you would through the crypto natives who actually understand the properties of what Bitcoin brings.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good summary. I think that crypto may be changing forever as a result of this. It's not just new ETFs to supplement, uh, the current way that crypto runs, with exchanges and treasures and ledgers being kind of the primary way that people hold them. Those are no longer the only three options, and I'm sure I'm forgetting plenty of other smaller hard wallets too. But uh, if you're a self custody hardware manufacturer, you're taking a hit here because there's
Yeah,
more competition now that's taking away the incentive for that to be your only secure way, assuming you don't
yeah,
believe in exchanges, to hold crypto. And I'm
yeah,
really fascinated to see how this changes a metric like supply and exchanges, and whether, when supply and exchanges starts to go up like we expect, will it even
mm,
matter? Will it be a bearish indication like it used to be, now that people are simply moving to exchanges so they can get into ETFs instead?
yeah,
That's not necessarily a bad thing for crypto.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And also, I think in that tweet that you showed before, let's not forget ETFs only trade during trading hours. So, if
Yeah,
something happened overnight, then it happens overnight, then you won't have the ability to make a trade or take
exactly.
advantage of it.
You only get to buy and sell crypto for 6.5 hours out of the 24-hour day when you're in ETFs, as opposed to 24/7 like crypto exchanges allow.
Yeah, yeah,
Also, take a look at how dominance has absolutely skyrocketed. I think this is the highest day Bitcoin has seen in a couple of years. Easily the highest in the last year. Over 41% of discussions. Yeah, highest in 2 years. Last time we saw Bitcoin being discussed at this level was January of 2021. So clearly, it's gotten a lot of focus, and interestingly, it's altcoins that are benefiting from this big social dominance spike so far. So I'm very interested to see how that changes.
yeah, yeah. So, Brian, you mentioned earlier that that we've got some crazy action happening on altcoins as well.
Hmm.
Do we want to?
Yeah. Do you have any specifics you want to look at?
No, just maybe just have a I don't know, an overview or a quick glance on the top few that have been going through the roof. Maybe I'll.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we touched on this at the beginning of the call with just, Bonk and
Oh yeah,
SSV, Lido, REQ, and Ethereum Classic, which will probably be showing up on this top 10 tomorrow. because it's
Yeah.
still pumping at the time of this call. But I think a good way to understand whether we're going to see continued altcoin dominance or more
Mhm.
Bitcoin dominance is if we go to our search over here and we look at, if we look at terms like alt or alts or altcoin or altcoins or alt season. It's a pretty good group of keywords that kind of show the trading crowd's enthusiasm right now for altcoins. And yeah, I mean, I'll just take off social dominance, look at volume for a minute.
Mhm.
This is the second highest spike we've seen in the past 3 months. Clearly,
Wow.
people are interested. You can see in most cases, these big spikes
Yeah.
actually stop the surge in crypto temporarily. Sometimes it just flattens out for a while. Sometimes it's a complete reversal. If we go back further, give it a moment. This was when Twitter's API changed, so that's why you see a big drop off there. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to see, but this green corrected right when this altcoin season spike happened in April.
Yeah.
There was even kind of a halt to crypto for a few weeks back in March when you saw a bunch of altcoin euphoria. So I think one thing we need to keep a very close eye on is the amount of altcoin euphoria that's currently going on, that can make or break whether this is a rally that lasts another couple months like we saw in October or November, or whether
Mhm.
it's going to be a very temporary phenomenon that was kind of predictable based on what we saw yesterday with people's reaction to the fake news and altcoins going off. We're seeing that happen again today now that the news is real. And I think this it's so interesting. It's so easy to say, oh, this is now an inevitability that all market caps are going to be huge, and 2024 is going to be one of the biggest years ever. But we've seen so many times with the Litecoin halving, with the Ethereum merge, everything goes smooth and exactly how the crowd expects. And then the weeks following or months following are tremendous disappointments in price action. So this is certainly a different type of news than those two examples, but I would still be a little bit cautious if the entire universe believes that this is a positive event and uh, crypto is now going to just double in the next few months.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely. I fully agree. You should never be too confident to think that something's gonna happen. Like it's. I mean, that's what Mr. Market's there for.
Right.
Yeah.
But objectively, it's still good news that there's more exposure to crypto. If you're a fan of crypto in general, and you can handle whatever short-term price swings we see, long term, this looks like a good sign that crypto is going to be adopted much more quickly and efficiently than it would have been if the ETFs were not approved.
Absolutely. I think in general, if you zoom out, it is a positive for crypto markets. I think for the first time, I mean, there have been other ETP products that were launched on other, stock exchanges, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, the U.S. market being the largest stock market in the world, it's clearly um, a positive sign that crypto has pretty much just gone mainstream. Like it's a momentous day. Um, it's the beginning of going mainstream, really. Of course, for the some crypto enthusiasts who may not like that because it goes against the belief system, I guess,
The
of
decentralization, yeah, that people
yeah,
want.
that's right, because it just means that there will be centralization of holding of Bitcoin.
Right.
Um, but it is what it is. And I think the beauty about Bitcoin is if you want to go the centralization route, then buy an ETF. If you want to hold your own Bitcoin, you still can. So
That's
you can
exactly
do
what I was going to
both.
say. Yeah, you
Yeah,
got both
yeah,
options. It's not like
that's
one is
right.
going away.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah,
exposure for now. Some people think down the road, now that it is centralized, the government will have the US government in particular will have a much stronger opinion and regulations coming toward, Coinbase and Gemini and other existing US crypto exchanges. But that remains to be seen.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So overall, I think it's a win for crypto. I think it's a pretty big win, and it's great that we got here. Um, and really, having choices is never a bad thing for the consumer or for the investor.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. I think this is an awesome, awesome development for crypto, and I can't wait to check in with you next month and see just what kind of impact the SEC's decision had.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a day to have our call. Like, it just happened today.
We
Yeah.
knew it as this is exactly what we planned.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. All right. Well, it's been great. It's been great, Brian. Thank you for
Always.
coming on as usual. Thank you.
Yeah. Always a pleasure,
Um,
Andy. And I hope you and your community have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, and you too, Brian.
All right,
All right.
guys. Take
Take
care. Till
care.
next time.
Till next time. Bye bye.